Hi there, it's Laura from Make Life Lovely. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be making the cutest ghost wreath. It looks just like the Pottery Barn ghost wreath that everyone's loving right now. And we're going to be making it much less than the original. So here's our Pottery Barn Ghost Wreath inspiration. It costs $89.50. We'll be making it for much less. So here are the supplies you'll need to make a Halloween ghost wreath. First, you'll need some kind of wreath form. I used a metal one that I already had from Dollar Tree that was 18 inches. So this one only cost me $1.25. Then you'll need some cheesecloth. I already had a huge roll of cheesecloth that I bought on Amazon that I've used for a bunch of projects so far. That's going to last me forever. You can find the link to the cheesecloth in the description box. I also used styrofoam balls. These are ones I already had in hand, so they were free to me. And then you'll also need some fairy lights. It's even better if your fairy lights come with a remote because then it's easier for you to turn on and off. But ones without a remote will work as well. You can find the links to all the exact supplies I used in my blog post link, which is in the description box. So here's my 18-inch Dollar Tree metal wreath form that I already had. You could use any wreath form if you already have one at home. You just want to make sure you spray paint it white or wrap cheesecloth around it. Again, I was trying to use what I already had on hand, so this DIY was completely free for me to make. If you're using a wire wreath form like I am, first you'll take your cheesecloth and wrap it around. I just did little pieces, so I wrapped one piece, cut it, used my hot glue gun, glued that piece down, and then moved on to the next piece. I didn't want to roll it because I didn't want it to get too bulky and messy, and I wanted to use the least amount of cheesecloth possible. So this method worked for me. I took the first piece of cheesecloth that I measured and then made multiple pieces in the same size so that they were ready to go when I was gluing instead of cutting, gluing, cutting, gluing. I wanted all my pieces ready to go so I could move faster. Once I had a handful of cheesecloth pieces, it was time to glue the pieces onto the wreath. I just used my pink hot glue gun, which is my favorite thing in the world. If you love pink, you should get one too because it's the best thing ever. I added some lines of hot glue to the wreath form on a few of the metal pieces, wrapped the cheesecloth around and let it cool and moved on to the next section. Please keep in mind that the cheesecloth is very thin, and especially if you're using a high heat glue gun like I am to make everything stick really well, the glue is going to be really hot and you'll feel it with your fingers when you're trying to push down. So instead of using my finger, I like to push down on the cheesecloth with a hot glue gun stick. That way I don't burn my fingers. And here's the wreath with the cheesecloth all wrapped around it. And now it's ready to get some cheesecloth ghosts over the top. So first we need to glue down our styrofoam balls so that they are nice and even. And those are going to be the base of our ghosts. I used 12. I think the Pottery Barn version has 13, but for me, 12 just fit nice and easy because I put them on like a clock. I started with one ball at the top, one ball at the bottom, one at 3 o'clock, one at 9 o'clock, and then I fit two in between each of those sections. I like doing it this way because I could make sure that I got everything nice and even and spaced out perfectly. To glue each foam ball on, all I did was put a big glob of hot glue down in the middle of where I wanted the ball to go. Then I pressed the styrofoam ball down and held it in place. I wanted to hold it in place so I could make sure it was down nice and tight and to give it a good chance to cool. Then I moved on to the next one until I had all 12 of my styrofoam balls glued onto my ghost wreath. And here's what it will look like when all of the ghost bases are put onto the wreath. Next, it was time to add the fairy lights to our ghost wreath base. To do this, I took the battery pack, placed it at the back of the wreath near the top, and then I used 2 white zip ties to attach the battery pack to the back of the wreath. These zip ties keep them nice and secure. You can still reach behind the wreath and flip the batteries on and off. When your batteries run out, it's easy to access the box and switch out the batteries. To add the lights to my Halloween ghost wreath, I simply wrap the fairy lights around each of the balls a couple different times. Now you can attach these a couple different ways. These were big long staples that I had that came off of a mirror that I did a DIY for that I'll be sharing soon. And so they're longer than regular staples. Trust me, I tried stapling on regular staples. It didn't work well at all. They fell out, they weren't too long, and I actually stapled one of my fingers, which was awesome. But These picture hanging staples worked great for me that I already had. You can also use some long pins that are between 1.5 and 2 inches called greening pins or floral pins. I'll also link to those in my blog post. I wish I had those on hand. I've since ordered some from Amazon and they're perfect. They are about the same width but just much longer than a regular staple, and so they'd go right into that foam perfectly. So that's what I would recommend for this time. I made what I already had on hand worked, and it worked great for me. So you can experiment and see what you can use that will work the best for you. Once I covered my Pottery Barn ghost wreath in fairy lights, it was time to cut some cheesecloth for the ghosts. First, I measured and experimented and found the size of cheesecloth that I wanted to use, and then I cut out pieces that I can put right onto the ghosts. I didn't want my ghost to be see-through, so I used double the cheesecloth. And remember, I used mine from a roll, so it was already folded over a couple times. And so I wanted mine to be extra thick, and so when I cut my pieces, I made sure that the two pieces matched and were about the same size so that they could go on nicely. So I took my pieces of cheesecloth, I set it down over the lights, arranged it how I wanted it to look, made sure everything looked good. Then I would just add a drop of hot glue to the top and then put that cheesecloth right down. I made sure I held it in place for a minute and that I didn't touch where I put the hot glue because I didn't want to burn my fingers. On a few of my little ghosts, the sides of the cheesecloth stuck out a little bit more than I wanted, and so I would take my glue gun, put a drop of hot glue down, and then push down on it so the ghost sides laid more flat. Then I repeated the same step for all 12 of my ghosts. To make the ghost eyes, I used some black craft foam that I already had and a hole punch and cut out some small little holes and hot glued those very carefully onto the ghosts. You could also cut out holes from black construction paper for the eyes, or you could even use a small Sharpie and make little tiny eyes as well. I hope you love this ghost wreath as much as I do. Here's the day shot. And here's what it looks like in the evening. This Halloween ghost wreath lights up really, really well in the evening. You should have different settings on your fairy lights so that you can make the lights still or make them flash. Either way, they're going to look great. Thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me. Please subscribe. Please like this video. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think and share this video with 3 friends.